A new simon today, simon Taf Ches, the halachas of Eruv Techumin. So the question is this: first of all, in Eruv Techumin, is it a mitzvah to do it? Is it allowed to do it? When can you do it? This is a situation where we know that you can go 2,000 amos beyond the edge of the city, and if you want to go for some reason, if your city is over here, and you want to make an Eruv Techumin, which means you go 2,000 amos or up to 2,000 amos to the edge of the city, that gives you a new Tchum, that's your new center point, and you can now go 2,000 amos beyond that. So when can you do that? So says the Mechaba. So it's that interesting. It actually begins with the Ramah, because look at it. The Ramah adds in a few words at the beginning. Mutzah la'ar Eruv Techumin v'likna shvisa soif ha'tchum. It's mutzah, which means lechatchila, to make an Eruv Techumin and to be kaina shvus soif ha'tchum. And therefore, and now begins the Mechaba, Mi sheyotzu me'o'ir be'erev Shabbos, someone who leaves the city on Erev Shabbos, ve'niach bozen shtei sudas rochik me'o'ir b'toich ha'tchum, and he leaves some food a distance away from the city, b'toich ha'tchum, within the 2,000 amos, v'kova shvisosoi sham, and he's now koveya his shvisa there, afal pi shechozer le'ir v'lom b'beis. So even though he then goes home before Shabbos and he gets back to his house, to his city, we consider the place where he left his two sudas to be the center point of his, to be where his koine shvus, and the center point of his 2,000 amos. V'zeu hanikra Eruv Techumin, and that is called Eruv Techumin. V'yesh lahalech m'makom Eruv lemocha alpayim amo lechol Orach, and therefore he can go 2,000 amos from the place where he made the Eruv. So again, his city, he's in the city over here, and he, for some reason, wants to go more than 2,000 amos beyond that. So before Shabbos, he goes, let's say, up to 2,000 amos from the edge of the city. He puts mozen shtei sudas, he puts the food there, but we'll discuss exactly how much and what food. And that creates his mokum shvisa to allow him to go 2,000 amos further the next day on Shabbos. That creates a new center point. Now the question is that, but when can he do that? So here comes the interesting thing. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sifkot Nalef Muta Hainu. Af she'ein la'odem lahalich b'Shabbos v'makom shvisa rak apayim. Even though on Shabbos you can only go 2,000 amos from your makom shvisa, or chamavu le'el b'simin shin samach zayin, hitiru lo lahalich arbo alofim letzad echad al yidei sheminiach mozen shtei sudas. Chazal allowed him to go 4,000 amos through putting mozen shtei sudas b'soif alpayim, by putting this tchum, the mokum, the shtei sudas at the end of 2,000 amos, shehu oime ben hashmoshes, from where he's standing at ben hashmoshes, and therefore we consider his shvisa to be there at 2,000 amos, and therefore he can go from that point of where the food is. He can go 2,000 amos l'chol ruach mimokum hahu, from that place. Or mishum the Mechaba kosav loshen di'eved. Now you see, the trouble is the Mechaba started off and said mi sheyotza mehoir, which is implying b'di'eved. Or mishum sha'mechaba kosav loshen di'eved hoisif haramah tagam lechatchila mutar la'ariv. He can do it lechatchila, in the first instance. Or lekama b'simin tof tesvov nispayed lechatchila davka l'dvar mitzvah. Yes, you can do it lechatchila, but only if it's for a dvar mitzvah. But the eved afim arav dvar rishus eruv eruv. But if he did it even for a non-mitzvah purpose, eruv eruv, even the Ramah would agree, eruv eruv. Says.
Should this not have been in the beginning? I mean, this is like an obvious.
Yeah, we have that as well. You see that countless times
I understand, but what's the chid? I mean,
why?
Making it like chiddush. That's the whole point.
Yeah, it's the last Mishnah in Gittin. The last part of Gittin is the grounds for divorce.
Yeah.
But you just spent the last, I think, 90 blood discussing every aspect of Gittin, and then the last Mishnah is, by the way, when can you get divorced? That's how it goes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But here the whole concept is.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. Okay, but we often see that. Says, look at footnote number 2. The question is, why is it only really l'dvar mitzvah that you should do this? Says footnote number 2, the Bach says, She'af mitzvah lechazer acha erev chatzeiros v'shitzav mevuos. So yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about that. Even though ideally lechatchila you should try and set up an erev chatzeiros or shitzav mevuos, kadei shelo yagiu l'dei issa tziltzul b'chatzei mavi, to avoid the issa of carrying of hitzah. Mikol mokum ein mitzvah lechazer acha erev techumin. There's no mitzvah to Eruv Techumin, but on the contrary, Yitochin shal l'dei Eruv Techumin yimona l'dei issa halicha chutz l'tchum. You're actually limiting it. In other words, there's no mitzvah to make an Erev Techumin. You don't have to go anywhere. You just stay where you are, stay in your city and 2,000 amas beyond it, and finished. If there's a mitzvah, then it's nice thing. Then it's a good thing to do. But with the Erev Chatzeres and the Shetufei Mevuas, that is a mitzvah to do it because you're preventing isurim in turn carrying and things like that. Okay, back to the Mishnah Berurah Sif Cotton base Sheyotza. So the losh of the Mechaber was Sheyotza Meho'ir Be'erev Shabbos. Again, so the Mechaber seems to imply that b'diavad you went out of your city and you want to put your mokum your mozen shtei su'udas in a certain place. That creates a mokum shvisa, and you can go 2,000 amas from that place where you put the food. Says the Ramah, mutal you can do that lechatchila. In what situation? For a mitzvah purpose. But even if you did it for the dvar rishus, that would be okay. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah Sheyotza. Not only if you did it, if you were there, but if you send a messenger, shliach, that's in the next simon. Distant from the city, but within the tchum. In other words, you're maxing out, so you're trying to go up to 2,000 amas, but not more than 2,000 amas. Now, it could be that your house is more than 2,000 amas away. Why? Because your city is here. Now, remember, the city is considered one place of daled amas. So you're going from the edge of the city 2,000 amas, and I put my mozen shtei sudas over here. That enables me to carry back 2,000 amas, but 2,000 amas beyond. That's my new center point. But it could be that my house is 3,000 amas away, because my house is 1,000 amas from the edge of the city. But once I hit the edge of the city, the city could be huge. It can be massive. So long as my mozen shtei sudas is within 2,000 amas, that gets me to the city. Once I'm in the city, I'm okay. I'm home, as it were. Yeah, you get it? So says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Cotton Gimel, even though the house is more than 2,000 amas away from where he's put the mozen shtei sudas, that doesn't trouble us, because it's within the tchum of the city. What he's trying to say, what the Mechaber is saying, is that if he put the mozen shtei sudas more than 2,000 amas away from the edge of the city, then the Eruv is not a good Eruv. Because he can't get to the place of the mozen shtei sudas because it's more than 2,000 amas beyond the edge of the city. Okay, the cover shvisosei sham, and he's been koveya his shvisa in the place where he puts the mozen shtei sudas, the food. He put it there for that purpose. His koine shvisa there. Even though before Shabbos he goes back home, because if he hangs around there after Ben Hashmoshes when Shabbos comes in, because there's two ways of doing it. You're either koine shvisa by putting food there or by being there. So in our situation where he put mozen shtei sudas, he does that before Shabbos, and then he goes back home before Shabbos, but his mokum shvisa is actually where he put the food. Because if he was actually there when Shabbos came in, he doesn't need to put any food there. He's just there. That's where his koine shvisa. Okay, v'zeu nikra erev techumin, says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Cotton Vav. Nikra kein lefishu ma'arev techum. He is joining techumim shelo yochel leilech by tchila ima techum shelo yochel leilech by. Because without making that mozen shtei sudas, and without making this erev techumin, he would be limited to go 2,000 amas beyond the edge of the city. By putting his mozen shtei sudas there, he's created a new mokum shvisa, a new center point, where you can now go 2,000 amas the other way. Okay, back to the Mechaber. 1, 2, 3, 4 lines down. Lefichach. And therefore, tomorrow, when he walks to that place, 2,000 amas away from the city, he can only go now on the other end. So imagine, here's the city, and he puts his mokum shvisa, his mozen shtei sudas over there. So that allows him to go from there to the mokum mozen shtei sudas and beyond 2,000 amas the other way. But going back there, he can only go to the edge of the city. That's his new limit, because previously he could have gone 2,000 amas the other way, but you can't have it both ways. Says the Mechaber lefichach kasher mahalech mokum eruv lemochar al paimah keneged oeh ein mahalech be'er el ad soif midasei v'im hoysa muvlas b'toich midasei. Now, if the whole city was within the 2,000 amas, let's say it was a small city, let's say it was 1,500 amas, So therefore he can go 2,000 amas beyond, but the whole city is subsumed within that. Techoshev kula ka'arba amas. That whole city has got a din of arba amas. V'yashlem midasoi chutzula. And therefore he can continue beyond the city. Right? So if that city is within the 2,000 amas, we reckon it as 4 amas. Ketzat. How so? Here, give an example. Shahari sheheniach es Eruv berichuk 1,000 amma mibeisoi shebe'er lurach mizrach. So, for example, his city is there, and he puts the thing 1,000 amas away. Nimtze mahalech lemocha mimocha Eruv alpaim amma mizrach. So he can go 2,000 amas from there. And he can go 2,000 amas to the west, because his Mokum Mozen Shtei Sudas is the new center point. Elef shemin ha'eruv ad beisai, he can go 1,000 amas from his house to where the Eruv is. Ve'elef amas bebeisa b'teichoeh, and 1,000 amas from his house b'teichoeh beyond that. Ve'ena mahalech be'er ela ad sofa alef, but he can only but he can't go in the city more than 2,000 amas. Right? Okay? Did you get that? But if it's from the city, but if from his house until the edge of the city is less than 1,000 amas, even by 1 amma, and therefore the measure ends by the end of the city, then we treat the whole city like arba amas. And therefore you can actually walk 996 amas beyond that. I'll explain it more in a second. Therefore, if he puts his Eruv 2,000 amas away from the city, he's lost the whole city. Okay, so in other words, it means as follows. He's actually got pictures in here. But imagine, here's the city. So he wants to go somewhere further the next day. So he makes his Eruv Techumin over here. That means he puts Mozen Shtei Sudas there. And let's say that allows him to go 2,000 amas beyond the next day. Perfect. How far can he go this way? So it depends. If, let's say it's a big city, right? So then he can only go 2,000 amas. So it's within 2,000 amas this. So he can go literally 2,000 amas. And if it stops in the middle of the city, so be it. But if means he can't go in the middle of the city, he can't go more than 2,000 amas from where.
It's not considered like amas.
Correct. But if the city is smaller and it's subsumed within the 2,000 amas to the Ma'arov, to the west of his where he made his thing, then it's considered like 4 amas. So, for example, let's say his city begins. He made an area of 1,000 amas away, and it's a smallish city. So then that's it, and it doesn't end. It ends within 2,000 amas that way. So we look at that point as 4 amas. We look at the whole city as 4 amas. So you can go 1,000 amas. 4 amas is the city, even though it's much bigger than 4 amas, and then 996 amas beyond that. Yeah. So it all depends where the city finishes. Say that. Okay. Let's do the Mishnah Berurah till there. Sif Katan Zayin Lefichach Rotzalema. Here, that's his mokum shvisa where he put the Eruv Techumin. Therefore, if he wants to go back the other way, he can only go 2,000 amas from where the Eruv, the boundary finishes. Even if he doesn't actually go beyond the house where he sleeps, if therefore there is 2,000 amas from the Eruv until his house, he can't actually go beyond his house to the west of his house at all. Even in the middle of the city, even one amma. Even if he changes his mind, Sif Kotzen Ches, Ad Soifo Elef, V'im Kol Sahamida Be'emtzoeh, but if the midah, the 2,000 amma measure, finishes in the middle of the city, Einu Lehalech Rak Ad Soif Midosa V'chanal. Right, so that's the case, Yossi. Yeah, so you've got, here's the city, it's a big city, and he goes 2,000 amas to the edge of the thing, and he puts his Mozen Shtei Tudas there, so he can go 2,000 amas the other way, and he can go 2,000 amas, and wherever it stops in the city, it stops. and he can't go beyond that boundary 2,000 amas
It's
outside.
one way, so he can start it by going to the end and starting it.
Yeah, so it helps him
Coming
go
back,
beyond
he
there.
can't-
It helps.
But it can't, when he comes back.
He's got to stop
He's
at
gotta
2,000
stop.
amas, but that's if it stops in the middle of the city, right? But
If he starts it, if he starts it at the end of the city, it's going to end.
it depends how big the city is, but if the city is subsumed in that 2,000 amas, then we treat it as 4 amas, and then he's got beyond that. Yeah, so the example I gave was he set it with it 1,000 amas away, so you can go 1,000 amas, and that city is a smallish city, so it's less than 1,000 amas. That's considered 4 amas, and then he's got 996 beyond the city. Okay, where are we up to? Sifkot and Tess, I think. Lav dafka pachos. When it says Tess, this is going on the fourth bottom line. So it says lav dafka pachos. Ela hu adin im kol semidas ha'elef b'soifa ir mamish. If it mamish ended exactly b'shaveh, gam kein kol ir nechshav ka'arba amas. V'yesh omrim the divra shulchan aruch b'diyukahu. The words of the shulchan aruch are exact. Mishum demidah zu shel alpayim amma bein beinis masur l'chol adam. They are handed down to everybody. The EF shel sometimes it's impossible to get it exact. That it's got to actually go beyond the end of the city. And we can be makel in a situation where it mamash ends at the end of the city. Why does it say that? Even though he can go from his house, also in that situation, after dark to go back to his actual house will be a problem, because if his house is more than 2,000 numbers away, the boundary is stopped before his house and he can't get home. And he's going to have to sleep in one of the neighbors' houses. Yeah, but in other words, if the boundary stops 2,000 numbers and his house is beyond that, he can't go home. That's so be it. So he'll have to sleep in one of the neighbors' house. Okay, mahalich b'chol ha'er. Let's just do the Ramah. V'yesh omrim da'afilu kolsa midasa be'emtza ha'er. That even if the midah finishes in the middle of the city, mahalich b'chol ha'er kula. Now there is a lenient opinion. This is good. So v'yesh omrim, says the Ramah, that even if the 2,000 boundary finishes in the middle of the city, there's a special dispensation that you can go to the end of the city. Mahalich b'chol ha'er kula, says the Ramah. Av'lo chusala, but not beyond it. V'yesh lahakal, and you can be makel. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sifkot and Dalef. Mahalich b'chol ha'er desfir lahu. Da'af she'niach Eruv irachik me'alpayim be'beisa shebeh. Even though the actual Eruv is way more than 2,000 amas, perhaps, from his house, hayil v'lon b'toich ha'er, since he's sleeping in the city. Nechsheves kol ha'er ka'arbam. So we always treat the city as 4 amas. Le'inyan she'yeh mutal halich b'kula, that you are able to walk throughout the city. The kol shekein lachzor lebeisa, certainly go go home. But regarding the measure of the tchum, we measure we do draw the boundary and that you can't go beyond it at all. But that's dafka in the city where you slept. But if you slept in the place where your shvisa is, or to a different city, but that's walking. But throwing, you can always throw, because it's all one big city with a big Eruv, and that's not with a big with a mukav. I mean, mechitzas in Moshe Rishus Hayochid, he's got a din of Rishus Hayochid, and therefore you can throw, like we discussed previously. Chumuv el Simon Tov Gimel Ayin Sham Machronim. V'yesh lahakel v'chein kos v'abach shari achronim. Let's just do one more line of the Ramah. If it finishes b'soifa'ir, and there is an extension in front of the city, the whole city is considered like Arba Amas. We don't say that the extension of the city is treated like the city lahachmir to make it more complicated, more difficult. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sifkot and Yud Gimel lahachmir Ratzalema the name of the Havi Kakola Midasa Bemsa, to say that it's got to stop in the middle of the city. Mishum Dadain Yesh Ibur Lifnei Ha'ir, because there is an extension before the city. We only apply it lahakel. Al midas hatchumin v'lo lahachmir. V'nira de bezel al kol ponim lechashrin ibur im o'eh k'arba amas. Omnam im kolsum midosa b'seifa ibur. But if it finishes b'seifa, we poshet the nechshav k'chol arba amas v'maschem midosa b'seifa ibur v'chutza. We measure from the seifa ibur v'chutza. So just the key points are that is it a mitzvah to do it? Is it a lechatchila b'di'eved? We saw that the Dafka the Ramah adds those words. It's mutter lechatchila to make Eruv Techumin if you want to change your 2000 Tchum measure, but only Lidvar Mitzvah. The Mechaba, because the Mechaba seems to say that it's Dafka Sheyotzo Eber Shabbos, which is Lashon B'di'eved. So the Ramah qualifies that and says, no, Lechatchila is allowed to do it, but Dafka Lidvar Mitzvah, but if he does it Lidvar Shos not, and then if he wants to do it, he takes his food, puts it 2,000 amas away, he can therefore go 2,000 amas the other way, and 2,000 amas back. Where does he stop? It depends very much on where the city, if it's within the 2,000 amas Tchum, then we count it as 4 amas and you can go whatever the distance is beyond that, up to 2,000 amas, but it's treated as 4 amas. And if it's more, then according to the Ramah, according to the Mechaba, you've got to stop the boundary even in the middle of the city, but the Ramah would count the whole city as Dalad amas. Okay, Peseda, we'll leave it there.